Hello students, welcome to ICSE Board Class 10 Biology episode 3.2.3. We are working with the chapter the excretory system, and so far we have seen the introductory part, egestion and excretion, their definitions, nitrogenous waste products, their types and examples. We have seen the accessory excretory organs. We have also seen in the previous episode the external and internal structure of kidney as well as the structure of nephron. Nephron is a basic structural functional unit of kidney, and it is actually helping in the formation of urine. The formation of urine takes place by extracting the nitrogenous waste materials, urea, uric acid, creatinine and minerals, ions and salts from the blood, which is excess, or you can say which is useless to our body, is coming out from the blood in the form of urine. So for the formation of urine, the blood is required to enter inside the kidney. Once the blood enters into the kidney, it is purified by these tiny cells known as nephrons. So nephrons are the basic functional and structural unit of kidney. So let us see the formation of urine, but before we see the formation of urine, you should know the blood supply that is occurring inside the kidney. So how is the blood supplied to the kidney? How the blood supply, or you can say the blood is entering inside the kidney? As you know, right ventricle is supplying blood to the various parts of the body through aorta. Aorta runs down as dorsal aorta. Dorsal aorta, when it reaches to the part of the kidney, it branches out the artery known as renal artery. Renal artery carries oxygenated blood but impure, as it contains high amount of non-poisonous nitrogenous waste materials like urea, uric acid, some little bit amount of ammonia is there, creatinine is there, phosphates are there, some salts and ions are there, and it requires to be removed from the body time to time. So the blood is entering inside the kidney as through the renal artery. When the renal artery enters inside the kidney, it branches out as afferent arterioles. These afferent arterioles are entering in the cup-shaped structure, Bowman capsule of the nephron. There are millions of nephrons, hence there will be millions of afferent arterioles. These afferent arterioles entering inside, not exactly inside, but just inside the cup-shaped structure of Bowman capsule of nephron, it is going to form capillaries. These capillaries are going to form a knot-like structure or tuft capillaries, which is known as glomerulus. This glomerulus then comes out as efferent arteriole. This efferent arteriole reaches out with other efferent arterioles to form renal vein. Renal vein then combines with the inferior vena cava and supplies the deoxygenated blood but pure, free from ammonia, uric acid and urea and creatinine and other minerals and salts into the heart. But before the efferent arteriole unites to form renal vein, it requires to form the capillaries surrounding the tubules of nephron, and this network of capillaries surrounding the tubules of nephron is known as peritubular capillaries. The peritubular capillaries at a special area of the nephron, that is Henle's loop, is known as vasa recta. So what is vasa recta? Vasa recta are the network of capillaries surrounding the special part of the nephron, that is Henle's loop. Henle's loop has two parts, DL and AL. DL is descending limb, which is coming down from the proximal convoluted tubule, and ascending limb is the upper part of the Henle's loop, which is going up and forms the distal convoluted tubule. Vasa recta plays an important role in reabsorption and in the secretion for the formation of urine. So this is how the blood is supplied to the kidney, and this is what happens inside the kidney. So which one is supplying blood to the kidney? Which artery is supplying blood to the kidney? Renal artery supplying blood to the kidney. Is renal artery pure? No, it is oxygenated, but it is not pure because it contains high amount of nitrogenous waste materials like urea, uric acid, ammonia, minerals, ions and excess amount of salts, which require to be removed. That means which require the blood, which helps the blood to purify. So this renal artery entering into the kidney divides into the millions of afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole enters into the cup-shaped structure, but it does not enter directly into the cup-shaped structure, but it forms the tuft of capillaries known as glomerulus. Glomerulus plus Bowman capsule together is known as Malpighian body. This tuft of capillaries unites together to form efferent arteriole, and efferent arteriole comes out, unite together to form renal vein. The renal vein then combines with the inferior vena cava, supplying deoxygenated blood but free from ammonia, urea, uric acid, creatinine, excess of salts and minerals and ions to the heart. But before the efferent arteriole combine to form renal vein, efferent arteriole forms a network of capillaries surrounding the tubules of nephron known as peritubular capillaries. These peritubular capillaries surrounding the spatial part of nephron, that is Henle's loop, is known as vasa recta. So peritubular capillaries and vasa recta both are same, but only the names at the position is different. The same peritubular capillaries at the Henle's loop is known as vasa recta. It also helps in the reabsorption and secretion for the formation of urine. So I hope you understood about the blood supply to the kidney tubules. Kidney tubules means nephrons. So let us see the formation of urine. Formation of urine actually takes place with the 3 steps. Number 1, ultrafiltration. Number 2, selective reabsorption. And number 3, tubular secretion. So first of all, ultrafiltration occurs. Where does the ultrafiltration takes place? Ultrafiltration takes place in the minute tuft of capillaries inside the Bowman capsule, or you can say in the Malpighian body. How? Because the blood is entering in from the renal artery into the efferent arteriole and into the tuft of capillaries, and then comes out from the efferent arteriole. So which process is taking place? Why it is called ultrafiltration then? The ultrafiltration is taking place over there because the blood which is entering from the renal artery and through the efferent arteriole, the diameter of the efferent arteriole is greater than the diameter of the efferent arteriole. As a result, a pressure is built up. This pressure will help the minute particles to come out from the capillaries. Now you know the function of capillaries. What is the function of capillaries? The function of capillaries is to help in the exchange of materials, to help in the removal of waste materials. So this is what it is. It is under the pressure. When you are pressing something, some unwanted particles, or you can say which are small, will be coming out. So which are the small particles that are coming out? Water, of course, mineral salts like sodium, potassium, glucose, amino acids, enzymes and hormones. All these which are carried along with the blood is also coming out. But what is the main thing that required to come out? That is nitrogenous waste materials. And which are the nitrogenous waste materials flowing inside the renal artery along with the blood, along with these good substances? That is ammonia, urea, uric acid, creatinine, etc. We don't want ammonia in our body, we don't want uric acid and urea in our body, we don't want creatinine in our body, otherwise it is going to create a problem for the body. So this requires to be removed. So when the renal artery is supplying blood, it is carrying each and everything. It is oxygenated, but it is impure. With the impurity, there are certain good things also. So here I can say that renal artery is carrying oxygenated blood plus good substances plus nitrogenous waste. So which are the good substances? Good substances are glucose, sodium, amino acids, water. All these things are good substances. And which are the nitrogenous waste? Nitrogenous waste materials are urea, uric acid, creatinine, potassium. All these are coming under the nitrogenous waste materials along with the ions like potassium. So this requires to be removed. Which one is required to be removed? Nitrogenous waste material is required to be removed. While these substances are important for our body, so it required to be reabsorbed. This is the second step. So first step, requirement of the removal of nitrogenous waste materials. When the nitrogenous waste materials are removed, along with the nitrogenous waste materials, the good substances are also removed, which require to be reabsorbed. So this is the first step of urine formation, that is ultrafiltration. So what is ultrafiltration? Ultrafiltration means filtration occurring under high pressure. What is ultrafiltration? Filtration occurring under high pressure is known as ultrafiltration. Filtration occurring under high pressure is known as ultrafiltration. Where it is occurring? It is occurring inside the tuft of capillaries, glomerulus and Bowman capsule, or you can say it is occurring in the Malpighian body. Why ultrafiltration occurs there? Because there is a diameter difference between efferent arteriole and efferent arteriole. So due to the diameter difference between the efferent arteriole and efferent arteriole, ultrafiltration pressure is created, high pressure is created, and as a result the filtrate starts flowing out of the blood. Not RBC, not WBC. WBC is there but not that much, not platelets. So from the plasma, blood cells are not going to come out of this one, hardly WBCs are seen. But what is the main component that is seen in this filtrate? Number one, water, glucose, amino acids, enzymes, hormones, vitamins, and nitrogenous waste materials like urea, uric acid, ammonia, creatinine, minerals like sodium, potassium, all these are seen. Which are the useful substances which are formed during the ultrafiltration? Glucose, water, amino acids, enzymes, hormones, vitamins, sodium, all these are important. You don't require to lose your glucose in the urine. You don't require to lose your amino acids or hormones or enzymes or vitamins in the urine. They are the important. So before it reaches to the ureter or urinary bladder, before it reaches to the renal pelvis, it requires to be reabsorbed. So these substances are important for the body and it requires to be reabsorbed. That means the second step begins, that is known as selective reabsorption. From where does the selective reabsorption takes place? The selective reabsorption takes place from the glomerular filtrate or ultrafiltrate. What is glomerular filtrate or ultrafiltrate? Filtrate that is formed after the process of ultrafiltration is known as glomerular filtrate. Filtrate that is formed after the ultrafiltration process is known as glomerular filtrate or ultrafiltrate. You can see the figure that I have drawn. Aorta is there. Aorta is supplying the blood. Aorta supplies oxygenated blood, then aorta branch out and enters the artery into the kidney as renal artery. Renal artery divides into millions of arterioles, that is efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole supplies oxygenated blood, nutrients as well as water and nitrogenous waste. It divides into tuft of capillaries known as glomerulus inside the Bowman capsule. So here I am talking about aorta dividing into renal artery, dividing into millions of efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole divides into minute tuft of capillaries known as glomerulus. This then unite to form efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole unites to form here renal vein. But before it forms a renal vein, it is going to form the peritubular capillaries. We are not talking about peritubular capillaries right now. We are talking about step number 1. So here what happens? The blood enters into the kidney through renal artery, which carries oxygenated blood, nutrients, water and nitrogenous waste material. See here I have mentioned, so it becomes easy for you. This blood is carried from the efferent arteriole tuft of capillaries. See the diameter of efferent arteriole and efferent arteriole. The diameter of efferent arteriole is greater than the diameter of efferent arteriole. That creates a pressure which is useful for the first step of the urine formation, that is ultrafiltration. When these pass RBC, WBC, platelets and other substances which are heavy in molecular weight, or you can say bigger substances, then some of the substances are going to fall down just like the strainer. What are the substances? N represents nitrogenous waste, water, glucose, amino acids, sodium ions, potassium ions, all these are going to fall inside the Bowman capsule. It is a hollow-like structure. They are a single cell structure made up of what? Podocytes. But you don't require to know that one, otherwise it will be higher class. So here what happens? these whatever substance that are falling inside the Bowman capsule is flowing down and going towards what? Going towards the ureter. That means the formation of urine is taking place. Now if you see in the formation of urine, water, glucose, amino acid, sodium, hormones, enzymes, all these are carried in the urine, which you don't require. Otherwise what happens? You are losing so many important substances in the urine. It requires to be reabsorbed. So second step begins, and the second step is what? Reabsorption of useful substances, and that is selective reabsorption. So let us see the ultrafiltration, and then we'll move on to the selective reabsorption. The filtration occurring in the glomerulus is called ultrafiltration or mechanical filtration or glomerular filtration. The diameter of the afferent arteriole is greater than the diameter of efferent arteriole. So the pressure is created in the tuft of capillaries, and this pressure makes the filtration of blood possible. The filtration of blood occurring under the high pressure inside the Malpighian body, that is glomerulus and Bowman capsule together, due to the diameter difference between afferent arteriole and efferent arteriole, is called ultrafiltration. And the filtrate that is formed after the process of ultrafiltration is known as ultrafiltrate or glomerular filtrate. In an adult, about 120 ml of 20 ml per minute of filtrate is formed. So which is the ultrafiltrate or glomerular filtrate? You can see in the diagram, I have mentioned it clearly. So in the proximal tubule which is flowing, the fluid which is flowing, which consisting of what? It consisting of everything, good substances as well as bad substances. And we don't want the good substances to go away in the urine. So the process of second step of the formation of urine starts, that is selective reabsorption. Selective reabsorption takes place throughout the whole tubules of nephron. Here, so this is what I have mentioned here. You just read it, and it says about the selective reabsorption. So high pressure of the blood in the tuft of capillaries, that is glomerulus, helps in the filtration of nitrogenous waste materials which are useless and partly poisonous, but along with it, it also filters out the good substances, that is 90% of water, glucose, amino acids, minerals, vitamins, enzymes, hormones, etc., which reduces the density and the volume of the blood, and it requires to maintain, as well as it is not good to lose all the good substances in the urine. Hence, the second step occurs, that is selective reabsorption. So here now the selective reabsorption starts taking place. You see the selective reabsorption. This is the first step, that is first step taking place here in Bowman capsule, that is ultrafiltration. Now you see second step. So all these are what? Second step. Here also second step is there. So second step is what? Selective reabsorption, and the selective reabsorption takes place from here to here. So first step is in the Bowman capsule and the glomerulus, which is known as Malpighian body, and the second step is taking place in the tubules of nephron. Now what happens here? As the ultrafiltrate passes, as the ultrafiltrate passes down the proximal convoluted tubule, the water starts coming out into the interstitial fluid, and it is then carried into the peritubular capillaries, the capillaries that what I have mentioned here as a blue in color. And they are carried into the renal vein in order to maintain what? Blood volume and blood density. Otherwise what? Glucose is gone, blood density has reduced. Water has gone, blood density has reduced. Amino acid, blood volume, and potassium, sodium, potassium all has lost. That means the blood volume and blood density is reduced. So in order to maintain the blood volume and blood density before it reaches to the heart, it requires to be recollected back into the blood. So this portion, what you are seeing here, is going for the urine, and then the urine is going into the ureter, where it is coming out from the body, expel out of the body. While this one, the blood capillaries are retained back. See, blood capillaries which are forming here and there are getting back into the blood circulatory system. So whatever amount of good substances are lost are required to be brought back into the blood to maintain the blood volume and density. So first of all, it starts with what? Proximal convoluted tubule. This is the proximal convoluted tubule. So proximal convoluted tubule, 90% of water is being useful, so it is being recollected back from the Henle's loop. It is permeable to water, ascending limb permeable to sodium, while here if you see here, water is also being absorbed, and so sodium ion is also being absorbed. So this is a selective reabsorption, and afterwards the third step begins, that is tubular secretion. that is secretion from the peritubular capillaries, because peritubular capillaries also releases certain substances which are being dragged into the blood. So from there it requires to come back into the tubules of nephron for the further formation of urine. That is the third step, that is tubular secretion. Let us see the selective reabsorption. What is selective reabsorption? Selective reabsorption means what? Selective reabsorption means reabsorption of certain useful substances like water, glucose, amino acids, minerals from the tubules of nephron to the peritubular capillaries via interstitial fluid back into the blood to maintain blood volume and density is known as selective reabsorption. Then the third step begins, that is the tubular secretion. So here you see number 3 I have mentioned, here number 3 I have mentioned, here number 3 I have mentioned. That means from these peritubular capillaries the substances are being secreted and it is entering inside the tubules of nephron for the further formation of urine. Now certain substances are there which are being dragged due to the pressure into the efferent arteriole, and then it is just roaming here and there inside the peritubular capillaries. When the time comes, it releases into the interstitial fluid, and from the interstitial fluid it enters into the distal convoluted tubule, that is sodium and potassium and water. Potassium is given out into the urine and the sodium is being used back into the blood because it maintains blood pressure. As well as certain poisonous substances like hippuric acid and the drugs like penicillin are extracted from the peritubular capillaries and supplied into the DCT and collecting tubule and the collecting duct for the further formation of urine. That is known as tubular secretion. Secretion made by the tubules of nephron. Which are the secretions made by the tubules of nephron? Penicillin, hippuric acid, potassium are the secretions coming out from where? Coming from the tubules of nephron. So that's why it is known as tubular secretion. So what is the definition of tubular secretion? Secretion of certain poisonous substances like hippuric acid, certain drugs like penicillin, as well as potassium ions entering into where? Entering into the DCT, distal convoluted tubule, is known as tubular secretion. And afterwards, what happens here? The collecting duct means this part, this is collecting duct. This collecting duct will be collecting what? High amount of nitrogenous waste materials like urea, uric acid, creatinine, minerals, salts, having potassium ions and very little amount of water, and expelling out of the body, that is urine. So here it becomes renal filtrate. See, here it becomes renal filtrate, while here it was glomerular filtrate. Glomerular filtrate is not considered equivalent to renal filtrate. Why? Because glomerular filtrate contains glucose, amino acid, high amount of water and certain useful substances along with the nitrogenous waste, while the renal filtrate contains very less amount of good substances, little bit amount of water, while having high amount of nitrogenous waste materials like urea, uric acid, creatinine, potassium ions, which is equivalent to whatever things that you are seeing in the plasma. So renal filtrate and glomerular filtrate both are different. Glomerular filtrate is formed after the process of ultrafiltration. Renal filtrate is formed after the process of selective reabsorption. That means after reabsorption of good substances, whatever nitrogenous substances are remaining inside the fluid, that is renal filtrate, and renal filtrate is equivalent to the urine because it contains mostly the nitrogenous waste materials, and this is how the urine formation takes place inside our kidney. So that is the tubular secretion. What is the definition of tubular secretion? Secretion of certain minerals like potassium ions, H+ ions, poisonous substances like hippuric acid, drugs like penicillin secreted from the peritubular capillaries into the tubules of nephron for the further formation of urine is called tubular secretion. And this is how the formation of urine takes place. In the tubular secretion, two hormones are going to play an important role. Which are the two hormones? Number 1, aldosterone, and number 2, antidiuretic hormone. Aldosterone is secreted from the cortex region of adrenal gland, which is on the top of the kidney. This is 1 mark question. Which gland is on the top of the kidney? Adrenal gland. What is its function? To secrete aldosterone hormones, and aldosterone hormones helps in the absorption of sodium ions and the secretion of potassium ions. It orders to maintain what? Maintain blood pressure. Another hormone is antidiuretic hormone, which helps in the reabsorption of water. That means if the high amount of water is lost from the body, then the body will become dehydrated soon. So ADH will help in the reabsorption of water from the urine formation. So that is why the ADH has its own importance. If in a person, if ADH amount is secreted very less, then the high amount of water is lost in the urine, he will be dehydrated soon. That condition is known as diabetes insipidus. In diabetes insipidus, no sugar is found in urine, but in another condition, diabetes mellitus, sugar is found in the urine. Diabetes insipidus is due to less amount of ADH. Diabetes insipidus is due to less amount of ADH. Diabetes mellitus is due to less amount of insulin. Understood? Sometimes excess of uric acid is also present in the body. Uric acid, if it is in excess, then it gets deposited in the joints and it causes gout. Uric acids are less soluble in water. This takes place because of the high protein diet. If a person has a diet containing high minerals and salts, then there is a possibility of developing kidney stones, also known as renal calculi. Kidney stones basically consisting of calcium oxalate. And this is the diagram, the last diagram where you are the last diagram that shows each and everything, step 1, step 2 and step 3. So I hope you understood how the formation of urine takes place. In the next episode we will talk about the composition of urine and physical properties, as well as about the osmoregulation and osmocontrol. Thanks very much guys. I hope you understood the formation of urine, and if you have any questions or any doubts, please let me know in the comment box. Thanks very much and thanks for your patience.